Battle Cats is my favourite mobile game of all time. I've been playing Battle Cats for 11, almost 12 years, and I've racked up well over 1,200 hours on it, with 21,000 user score. From its consistent updates to its addicting gameplay loop, never before have I played a mobile game for this long without fully quitting. When I first started playing in late 2014, at only 11 years old, Into the Future didn't even exist. Now, through these 11 years, I did take considerable breaks, leaving for 6 months, then coming back. I did this multiple times. However, I always did come back, and at this present time, I have beaten 99.9% of this game. Other than level 100 Labyrinth, likely because of these breaks, I don't have enough units, because I obviously missed so many collabs, etc. But I'm actually getting there, and it won't be long, most likely. Why am I saying any of this? Well, because I believe if you actually needed credibility to talk on this game, you don't, by the way, but I'm just saying, what is good and bad about it? But I have a very unique and qualified position. Now we've gotten that out of the way, what I would like to discuss and rant about, in my opinion, is a major problem for me in recent times, and that is difficulty. In my opinion, Battle Cats has got way too easy for the average player, meaning it's gotten very easy just to steamroll large portions of the game in quick succession, which past players would have taken a whole year or even two years of playing this game to achieve. You often hear the term power creep being thrown around, almost as if it was inevitable, which, by the way, absolutely was not inevitable, but we will get to that. Without further ado, I will break down multiple design choices made which have made this game too easy to play. The biggest one, which is why I wanted to get out of the way, in my opinion, is the lack of gatekeeping progression. This one is arguably the biggest. Opponents have not done a very good job preventing power creep. They oftentimes will add a stage which is difficult on release and actually makes the player have to use skill and game knowledge to beat. The most obvious example of this is being Floor 30, Heavenly Tower. But then in the coming updates after a stage's release, they will literally add direct units you can acquire without even beating the stage first, which either mostly or fully counter the stage, removing all difficulty and skill. Going back to Floor 30 on release, you had to bust out the big brain moves to make up a lineup and play very precisely using all valid units at your disposal to defeat it. And you felt great because of it. You developed much better timing skills and you actually felt accomplished, which is great for making you want to play the game more. But nowadays, the average player can bust out just Mushroom Cat, Courier, and the ridiculous amount of wave and anti-traitless units to win without even experiencing the joy and challenge, robbing them of that progression and experience like I mentioned earlier. In my opinion, to circumnavigate this issue, opponents simply should just do far more gatekeeping of units and stages until other stages have been completed. That way, there is a much more keen sense for the player of progression, whether that be their arsenal improving or the unit or their personal skill level. Now, big disclaimer, part of the charm and greatness of this game is that the player can decide which stages and areas of the game to focus on at any given time, which is 100% true, but there should be more of a balance in kind of allowing the player to acquire certain units as to not throw off the balance and progression of the game. My second point is there's too many absolute generalist Ubers. This one is a hot take, but I think a major thorn in this game are the Uberfest and Epicfest banners, and I know that I can't be alone in thinking this. They are fundamentally just way too strong and can be used on too many stages. Back in the day before they existed, most Ubers only targeted 1, 2, or maybe even 3 traits rarely, meaning you had to be creative and selective on which units you could choose. Nowadays, you bring one Uber to do massive damage to everything, 1 unit to slow everything or freeze depending on your choice, and 1 critter. And already you have a lineup which can destroy a ridiculous amount of stages, and the rest of your units, I oftentimes find in the modern game that I'm just adding things to my arsenal for the sake of it, like a combo or something like that, because I don't really know what else to add, because I've already got a lineup by which can destroy the stage within 2 or 3 units. Not to mention that a lot of these units are wave immune, and some of them even have surge and explosion immunities depending on the Uber. I know it's also too late now, but I personally think the game would have been better off without them, as it would encourage a more diverse loadout and Uber usage, and most Ubers are not really used anymore because of it. Think about it logically. If you're an average player and you had all the Uber Fest and Epic Fest units at your disposal, they would have almost zero need to get any other Ubers for the most part. It's easy to say, just don't use them, but dominant game strategy exists and will make it so the casual player will just steamroll the game without any issue, which, just like I mentioned earlier, robs them of that experience, making the game simply just too easy. My third point, this one's going to be potentially controversial. I don't really know if it is. I think there's too many anti-wave and anti-traitless units. I'll start with the anti-wave. This one links to my other points, but I personally think there are too many units with this immunity, and those who can acquire it through talents. Back in the day, wave enemies made you have to think and play differently, which spiced up the gameplay. For example, the removal of meat shields to limit wave procs. This made it more challenging and forced the player adaptation, but nowadays there are so many anti-wave units, you can just brute force these stages without any consideration of this. This is made even worse when Octopus came out, which is a wave blocker, which you can actually spam, especially if you have a research combo. I personally think no units should be immune. This way, every stage which had wave enemies forced you to think and navigate this issue, and would promote tankers more in the meta. Secondly, the traitless enemies were great back in the day, as they were the first enemies where you couldn't just rely on debuffs to neutralize them. They were pure damage in order to defeat them, which made you have to learn unit health and damage for experimentation. This was a great layer of depth in any given stage, which had a mix of traitless and traited enemies. But nowadays, with the likes of Hitman, Tourist, and a plethora of Ubers, they have just turned into any other trait and have lost their niche. This once again makes the game easier and removes a layer of difficulty. I personally think, hot take by the way, no units should have anti-traitless abilities, to give credit to the notion traitless, making you having to think outside the box. The fourth section, I'm going to be speaking off the cuff for this one. This is Bahamut Blast. Do I have to really say anything? This is just too strong. Straight up. It's a unit which everyone can acquire. It is way too powerful. It breaks progression. It breaks so many stages which existed before it existed. I don't even have to say much more on this. Bahamut Blast. And my final point, XP is now too easy to acquire. Back in the day, XP was actually difficult. I remember having to grind XP stages all the time. But nowadays, I don't even have to think about XP. And I know a lot of players don't either. There are so many collabs, there are so many events constantly going on, which don't get me wrong, is great, but it breaks progression again because you're getting so many XP stages, so much cat food all the time, every day, to the point where you don't really have to think about, resource management that much when it comes to outside of stages. I personally think just the game should be more difficult. I don't believe that it should be just, let's just make it difficult for the sake of it. But I think it used to have a much greater balance, and I would genuinely feel accomplished in beating a stage. But nowadays, new stages come out, I beat them the same day they come out because they're not even that difficult. And I've got even if I don't use Ubers, I've just got so many units which are just so powerful nowadays, like Slime and Talented Can. But it's kind of just I don't need. I feel like this game has just gotten too easy. It's simple as that. I know that this video has seemed kind of rushed and just speaking off the cuff. It's my first commentary. I don't really know what else to say, but I just think the game should be more difficult. Thanks for watching. I don't know if you got something out of this. If you did, I really appreciate if you could like. I feel like I should probably make more of these commentary videos. I personally just love this game so much, and I would love to just continue to make videos on it. Check out my other videos. I am currently trying to steamroll the entire Zero Legends with just like effectively one lineup. Given the current stages coming out with the red elephant, I'm actually kind of curious if I can still beat those stages. The part 3 will be coming out soon, but thank you guys for watching. God bless.